I'm going to talk about today, criticism. Being told you're wrong, being told you don't know what you're doing, being told that all your ideas don't work, or being told, you know what you're doing is right, but I want you to do it this way. Sometimes it gets to you, it gets to me, it gets to every one of us, and sadly, we're all guilty of it, right? So, this is not something you can get away from. You can't. It's just going to happen. And when it becomes so much, it becomes like the weed, right? It's all over. You wake up in the morning, you are criticized because the time you woke up, you know, or you get ready, you're late, or you get, something is going on all the time. Even if it's not in the morning, maybe it's in the evening, the time you came back in, or it could just be at work, the interactions, everything you do. When that begins to happen, then you have to look at yourself and say, hey, how can I do that? That's one of the reasons why in this segment I'm talking about how you can manage or eliminate stress from the weight of daily criticism. That's what we're going to talk about here. What are the tips and what are the habits you need to form if you want to do that? So first of all, let's acknowledge that being berated by your spouse, co-worker, friend, coach can be demoralizing, especially if the criticism is based only on one point of view and is never balanced by compliments or other acknowledgement of success. You know what I mean? Your fears are not acknowledged, nothing. It's just you didn't do this or you didn't do that, right? So first you need to recognize it, So, how would you feel if you find yourself in a situation where you're always being corrected or reminded of your faults and inadequacies without any acknowledgement of your positive attributes or contributions to the relationship or even to the interaction? How would you feel? You probably feel bad. This kind of thing definitely leads to, it's going to raise your emotional tension. It's a disruptor. I'm telling you, it's a stressor, no doubt about it. But what do you do? What do you do? Because, and let me tell you something, right? Criticisms are just, the subset of difficult conversations or interacting with negative people. And sometimes, hey, fire with fire is just going to lead to more fire. So if someone is criticizing you, what do you do? Well, like I said, first recognize that this can be, a stressful encounter. So what do you do, in this kind of situation? The first thing is, this kind of, you have to recognize what criticisms can do to you. It will make you feel bad. You can make you feel that you're not always right. So you have to start countering this with your own positive self-talk. Tell yourself, hey, I am not as bad as they're saying. You know what I mean? Everything about me cannot be bad. There has to be some good in me. That's why I got here. That's why I'm still here. You know what I mean? There has to be something I can share that is positive. So first you need to counter the negativity by true positivity, right? If someone is, or you know what? If you can't counter it, just ignore it, right? Just say to yourself, you know what? These are just opinions. That's one of the things I always try to tell myself, Opinions are not facts. They're just that, opinions. It's another person's point of view. So just because someone is saying that you are not competent, because someone is saying that, you're always late, or someone is saying you never care about me, or someone is saying I don't like the way you do your job, or any of that, that doesn't mean that that's accurate. You have to ask yourself, what are the parameters that you need for doing this job? What are the expectations? What are your other colleagues doing? Are you meeting it? Then, hey, it's not on you, And so don't let that get to you. And once you do that, it's just like pouring water on a rock. It doesn't really penetrate, right? It just pours and then splashes out. So the same thing, when you have a lot of verbiage that is just, negativity, let it hit and then fall off. That's one of the things I tell you to do. So, hey, we talked about remembering to start with, there might be no validity to the criticism because it's just an opinion. Then secondly, if there is validity to it, is it all the time? Is there room for you to improve? Hey, you can take something from it and improve. But if it's all the time, then there's something wrong with that, right? So that's another thing you need to look at, and then what are your options, for dealing with that? One of them is positive self-talk, the other thing you can do is walk away, right? If it's something, that you can leave, leave, step aside and say, hey, I'll be right back, thank you for sharing your thoughts. I'll be right back. That's one way of doing it. You know what I mean? Yes. At other times, it will entail changing location. Yes. Finding other activities to keep you focused and happy, right? So if you consistently pay attention to your garden every day, it's going to grow, and so you're going to be able to know where the weeds start coming up. So that's basically, if you pay attention to your interaction with others and your relationships, you will know when things start going south. You'll know when people start saying things, they don't usually say. You will know when people are really upset, when there's a lot high emotional tension, and you ask yourself, what can I do to make this better? One of the things you can do is remember opinions are not facts. The second thing you can do is positive self-talk. And the third thing is change location. Change location. When changing of location is not possible, then reinforce yourself through positive self-talk. Or do you know what you could do? Just keep quiet. Yes, just keep quiet. If you keep quiet, and you can, sometimes keeping quiet is challenging, because you really have to be able to endure the negativity. If people are so upset, they are pouring it on. Now, if someone changes from, telling you, hey, have you heard the term constructive criticism? So not every criticism is bad, but I'm just talking about the negative ones where people never see anything positive in what you're doing. So if you see that someone, has a lot of that, then you have to make adjustments, right? So the thing to remember, one of the reasons why I'm talking about this, is that stress in relationships will eventually kill you, harm you. It might be through your health. It might affect you when you're driving. It depends on the circumstance and situation. And, it might lead to conflict, or rage. This is one we have to figure out ways to handle it. And, conflict, is one of those things, or criticism, sorry, is one of those things. Criticism actually is, to me, it's a form of, conflict, right? Because when someone starts going negative about you and about your thoughts, about the things you're doing, you don't normally feel comfortable, and most of the times you might want to diffuse tension, or we should not try to diffuse tension, but you might want to speak back about it, and you're not going to get any traction, So what we need to do is, we have to form the habit that will help us remind ourselves that our imperfections do not make us, they're not the whole us, right? Just because there are some things you're not doing right doesn't mean everything about you is wrong, okay? So don't let the imperfections, become the whole, in the whole you, right? Don't let that become what you're remembered for, what you represent, okay? So the imperfections might be so much that, you yourself might even begin to believe that you're nothing, but the sum of your imperfections, which is not true. You are not the sum of your imperfections, okay? There's something good about you. There are some things you're able to do. People might disagree, but that doesn't make it wrong for you, or that doesn't mean that it's not accurate, that you have something positive to contribute. So if you remember that, and remember the other three factors I've shared with you, which are the following. I'm just going to throw them out there in any order, right? First thing is, remember that opinions are not facts. Someone says their opinion, it's not necessarily a fact, it's just an opinion, right? The other thing is, hey, keep quiet if you can, or give yourself positive self-talk, and then leave, change location, okay? So, but in this last part, we're talking about being reminded of your imperfections. Well, this is why you have to identify and consistently take those steps every day that help you keep stress out of your relationships, and consistency is the key to getting your desired results in your relationships. Yes, if you really want to keep stress out of your relationship, consistency. You have to, these four things I've said now, anytime criticism comes, apply them. Okay, apply them. You give yourself the best chance not to, wallow in self-pity and all that, or in how unfair it is that someone, because people don't really care sometimes, even when they're not being fair to you. They have their justifications, So, hey, what do you expect? they have their justifications. So please, stay focused, stay healthy, stay consistent. Okay? Hey, I'll see you on the next segment.